So let me ask you this. How many emails are sitting in your inbox right now? 50, 100, maybe even more. And how many of your messages, actually cut through all that noise, make an impact? It's a challenge, right? That inbox can feel less like a communication tool and more like, I don't know, a daily battle. Well, today we're doing a deep dive into mastering email communication. It's such a crucial skill, but honestly, it's often kind of overlooked in our professional lives. We've been digging into this really great source, Management English Emailing. It's a super practical guide for sharpening up your digital communication. Our mission today, simple. We're pulling out the absolute best bits, the real nuggets of wisdom to help you write emails that don't just get open. We want them understood, acted upon, and yeah, actually remembered. Think of this as your shortcut to being really well-informed on writing effective emails. Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here is how email has basically become the central nervous system for global business. I mean, think about it. It's often the very first professional interaction you have with someone, and almost definitely the most frequent one. And getting email right, it's not just about being formal or, passing information back and forth. It's really about clarity, efficiency, and actively building those strong professional relationships, even when you're miles or time zones apart. So in this deep dive, we'll touch on, well, everything. From the basic structure, the building blocks, to the subtle stuff, like word choice, and even who you put in the toe versus the CC's line. It's more complex than people think.
It really is. Okay, so let's shift from the why email matters, to the how. How do we actually do it well? Our source starts with the basics, the fundamental architecture of a good email. And it lays out 6 key elements. They're pretty precise, actually. First up, the title. This isn't just a label. It needs to be short, punchy, and super clear. Think about how quickly you scan subject lines right. Then, the opening remark, keep it polite, keep it professional, sets the tone. Then, and this is critical, the purpose of the email. The guide really hammers this home. Big, specific, and smart. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. That's a huge takeaway for you listening. It's not just what you're writing about, but why are you writing? What do you actually want to happen? After that, you need to provide background or information. The source suggests hitting the 6 W's: where, when, which, what, who, why. Gives all the context needed. And then the call to action. This is where you directly ask them to do something. Confirm, reply, share. Just acknowledge they got it, whatever it is. Spell it out. Don't make them guess. And finally, a polite professional close. Simple as that.
Well, seemingly simple.
You really hit on something vital there with the smart purpose and the clear call to action. I mean, seriously, think about it. People get, what, 50 plus emails a day, maybe way more. An email without those clear signals, it's basically invisible. It's just going to get buried. It's not just good manners. It's inbox survival, really. And that point about the 6 W's, that's strategic. It cuts off all those back and forth clarification emails. It saves so much time. It forces you, the sender, to actually think through what's essential before hitting send.
That makes total sense. Respecting their time and your own. Right. Okay, so let's move beyond that basic structure. Let's get into the finer points, the craft of making sure your message truly lands. Our source has this email checklist. It really drills down into the details for maximum impact. First big theme, simplicity. The guy says, look, 3 main points per email. That's usually enough. If you've got more, maybe split it. Or, pick up the phone, have a quick chat, then follow up with a summary email. And get the statistic, the guide says. Sentences with more than 20 words increases the chances of misunderstanding.
Wow. That's pretty specific. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it really makes you think about being concise. And it's not just words, it's formatting too. Headings, short paragraphs, bullet points, they make a huge difference for readability, especially when, as the source notes, 50% of emails are read on mobile phones or tablets. Got to make it easy to scan on that small screen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How many times have you personally just given up on a massive block of text on your phone? I know I have. These simplicity guidelines, they're really about respecting the reader's cognitive load. Their attention span is limited.
Right. Okay, next on the checklist. Is your email understandable and purposeful? Is the main point clear right from the start? Is the subject line easy to understand? And here's a fantastic, super practical safety tip they mention. Do not hide the email address of the receiver in the toolbox until you have reviewed the email and are completely sure about sending it.
Huh. Yes. That saved me a few times.
Me too. It stops those instant regret moments, doesn't it? Prevents sending half-finished thoughts, or worse, sending to the wrong person.
That review process is just critical. And that 2-line tip, it sounds small, but it prevents potentially huge errors. It forces you to be intentional.
Definitely. Okay, and finally, is your email executable and relevant? If it's urgent, actually urgent, say so in the subject line. Don't cry wolf, but be clear. Make it personal. Use their name. It makes a difference. Keep emphasizing short paragraphs. Bullet points, easy digestion is key. And tone. Oh boy, this is a big one, especially across cultures. The source makes this really insightful point. The receiver will remember the emotional tone of the email much longer than the content itself.
That's powerful.
Isn't it? It really highlights the need for empathy. And related to that, humor. The advice, be super careful. Irony, sarcasm, jokes. It normally just does not work and can damage relationships and business, particularly across cultures. Nuances get lost so easily in text.
So true. What's funny in one context can be offensive in another.
Exactly. And the guide gives us this ultimate filter. They call it the public test.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, how would you feel if this email ended up in your boss's inbox? Or their boss's? Or, got published online?
Ooh, that's a good one. That really forces you to think.
Right. That's a pretty high bar, but maybe a necessary one.
Yeah, that public test really encourages intentionality and connecting back to tone and humor, thinking about the receiver's perspective, their mood, their cultural background. It just highlights how vital empathy is in global communication today. It's not just what you say, but how it lands, how it's received in their context. And that public test, it's not just about saving face or protecting your reputation. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard, making sure your words genuinely reflect your intent and your professional values. It makes you consider the ripple effects.
That's a great way to put it. It really shifts email from just, sending messages to strategically building relationships. Okay, let's pivot slightly. Let's talk about who actually gets the email, those recipient lines, and then dive into specific word choices. First, the lines. To, CC, and BCC. The to line, the guide is clear, is for people you expect to do something. They have an action. The carbon copy CC line, that's for people who need to be in the loop, who benefit from knowing, but don't have a specific task, just keeping them informed. And blind carbon copy, BCC, the source says use extreme caution. It can create significant issues.
It can feel sneaky if used improperly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So use it very sparingly. And then there's the dreaded reply to all. The advice is blunt. Use it only if you really need to, as nobody needs extra email.
Yeah.
We've all been victims of those endless reply all chains, right?
Oh, absolutely. The inbox clogger. Totally. Now, our source also provides this amazing list of useful phrases for all sorts of situations. Greetings, stating your purpose, making requests, apologizing, confirming things, attaching files. Loads of options. Like instead of just send me the report, it gives you, could you please forward, or would you be able to provide? Lots of ways to phrase things clearly and appropriately, formal or informal.
And host, what's really key there is understanding that each line, to, CC, BCC, sends a different signal. It sets expectations. Getting it wrong isn't just a technical slip-up. It can cause confusion, waste people's time, maybe even breed a little resentment if someone feels wrongly included or excluded. It's a strategic decision every time you populate those fields. It impacts trust and clarity. That's a really important distinction. It's strategic, not just functional. Okay, so beyond what to say and who to send it to, the source also flags specific words to actively avoid. These are words that can subtly undermine your message, or sometimes not so subtly damage relationships. This part is really interesting. Let's call them take care words. First category, dramatic words. Things like absolutely, totally, very. The source argues they often do not offer any value. They just add drama of little value and can even make you sound less credible, oddly enough.
Yeah, they can feel a bit like fluff.
Right. Then there are words like just and basically. The guide says they immediately reduce the importance and impact of whatever follows. They can give an impression you don't intend, like you're downplaying things. Think about saying, I'm just following up. It instantly minimizes your request.
I catch myself using just all the time. Need to watch that one.
Me too. It's a hard habit to break. Okay. Next, defensive words like arguably or starting with I think. These can signal a lack of confidence. The guide actually suggests that sharing your opinion clearly and directly often earns more respect. Also saying, I will try, instead of I will. It shows, again, maybe a lack of confidence and can create anxiety for the person waiting. Better to say, I will, and then manage expectations clearly if needed. I will get it to you by end of day Friday.
Clear commitments. Makes sense.
And apologies. While necessary sometimes, the source warns against overusing sorry. The more you use it, the less impactful and sincere it appears. Save it for when you genuinely mean it. And finally, watch out for condescending words. The big offenders here are actually and obviously. These can be often very damaging, the guide says. Why? because they imply that the audience does not understand the topic, but the manager does.
Yeah, nobody likes being talked down to, even subtly.
Exactly. It just creates friction and erodes goodwill instantly.
You know, what's fascinating about this list of words is the subtle psychological punch they pack. They seem harmless, right? Just actually very. But they chip away at your authority or your sincerity, or they just create static in the communication. Understanding why they're problematic helps you make conscious choices. Choose words that actually strengthen your message, not weaken it. Host, have you ever typed one out and then thought, hang on, that sounds wrong?
Oh, definitely. Especially just, like we said. And sometimes, actually, you reread it and think, ooh, that could land badly. This whole deep dive, it's really been a masterclass, hasn't it? It's a shortcut to being much more effective and well-informed with your email. We've covered the core structure, the checklist for simplicity and clarity, thinking about your audience with TOACC-BC, and these really powerful insights on words to use and words to definitely avoid.
So, maybe the final thought for you listening is this. In this age of constant, often pretty impersonal digital messages, how can your emails do more than just pass along information? How can they actively build trust, show respect, strengthen those vital professional relationships? What tiny shifts in your language, starting maybe with the very next email you write, could lead to surprisingly big positive results? Because thoughtful communication, and email is a huge part of that, it's really an ongoing journey, isn't it? Always learning, always refining,